Okay, welcome back to Skin to It. I am Marlo Sutton, fashion stylist and beauty enthusiast.
And I'm Dr. Sandy Skotnicki, board certified dermatologist.
Okay, and I'm really excited because this is part 2 of our Dermatology Detectives series. Hope you listened to the first one because this will really make a lot of sense if you have.
Yes.
The last episode, we tackled household and personal product allergies. Today, we're going to talk about occupational contact dermatitis. So when your job literally gets under your skin.
I like that.
And just so you know, this series is really about stories. It's about cases, crazy stories and cases that Sandy has come into contact with in her practice.
Well, actually, yeah. So
and in her personal life.
No. So most of these cases are coming from I have an academic appointment at U of T. I'm an assistant professor. Hopefully, maybe by the time this is broadcast, associate professor.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a clinic at St. Michael's Hospital for 23 years, where it was a joint venture between St. Michael's Hospital and the Workers' Safety Insurance Board of Ontario. So I would actually see occupational complex cases. So people that, were sent to us, are they reacting to their workplace? And we had a whole team. And we published a lot. And I've been doing this for a long time. And this is a collection of some of the more wilder studies.
Wilder stories. Okay.
And I just wanted to mention, if you didn't listen to the first episode, contact dermatitis is a rash, dermatitic rash that you get by coming into contact with something at your workplace. Mm-hmm. It can be allergic or it can be irritant. The majority of cases are irritant.
Okay. So what makes occupational contact dermatitis different than regular?
Well, it's really just because it can ruin your career. I mean,
right.
And the workplace ones are just so much more important and much more challenging to treat. So I have a few stats here. We don't have Canadian stats, but did you know that occupational contact dermatitis, so dermatitis from your workplace, is the most common occupational disease? Think about that. You know, back pain, like we call it MSK, musculoskeletal pain, like all of these headaches, the things. Skin is the most important occupational disease. So that it's a 1 billion. It costs 1 billion annually in the U.S. alone.
Yeah,
and we were chatting about this before, but so hairdressers, nail technicians. Healthcare workers, janitorial, restaurant, factory workers, mining. I see people sent from Sudbury with a WSIB claim that are allergic to nickel from the mines. Like so all of these things. But I would say farmers. We'll talk about a few of those cases. But 80% of occupational contact dermatitis, because you can be, as I said before, contact dermatitis can be, you can actually be allergic to something that's touching you, but 80% of the cases are irritant. Yeah. And they actually are much more problematic because if you're a healthcare worker and you have hand dermatitis and you're not allergic to anything, it's just the sheer amount of times you have to wash your hands and wear gloves. How do we treat that? How do we deal with that?
Right.
And that's really beyond the scope of this podcast, but I would say that if anybody is dealing with that, you need to go to an occupational clinic and hopefully end up seeing us here in Toronto. We see people from other provinces as well. We're one of the leading, and my clinic is moving from St. Mike's to North York General. Okay. Anyway.
So we did, in our last series, or the first series, we did mention a farmer, a pig farmer, who was using a peppermint, it's like essential oil on the teats of the pigs and had a horrible case of contact dermatitis.
Yep.
And luckily, we were able to help him figure out what it was.
Yeah, it fixed him. He was fine.
Fixed him, yeah.
Actually,
fixed him.
I think it was the cows, too. It was a picture of the cows, but anyway.
Pigs' teats. Well,
doesn't matter.
Teats, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They apparently, it's a common practice to put peppermint, just like when we breastfeed. I mean, we put, lanolin, straight up lanolin. I mean, that's potentially allergenic too, although very low. I'd like to reiterate that too. Like, allergy to things is not common, but when it happens, it can be so incredibly disruptive and it can be really hard to figure out. That's the whole detective thing. So some of the cases we're going to talk about, they're outliers. Like, they're fun. We want to keep listeners interested, but we also want you to understand that this is a big part of dermatology that a lot of people don't know.
Sure.
That's what we do.
Okay. Yep. So let's talk about I think you had a couple of other farming cases you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So I think the hobby farm guy, I remember him. He, so some people have our good friend Sarah. She has a hobby farm.
Yeah.
She has big hobby farm, like lots of animals. But people that you have to feed like you can pour it into troughs and stuff. But this fellow was sort of spreading the feed with his hands. And he was severely allergic to cobalt. Cobalt is a common additive to feed because it helps with the animal's nutrients. So he was allergic to cobalt. But the craziest one, and one of the most satisfying, I have to say, this is probably the most satisfying thing that I do as a dermatologist, is helping people who are potentially, like this is disrupting their work. They're off work. They're not making any money, or they're waiting for their claim to be realized. So this was a Mexican seasonal worker in the Holland Marsh, which is just outside of Toronto.
Cranberries,
for those people who are listening from it's a very fertile area of farming in Ontario, Canada. He came to me, didn't speak any English. We had a translator. You know, that wonderful thing, people can say what they want about the Canadian healthcare system, but the Canadian healthcare system actually has, and I double checked this because this case was a while ago, they have health coverage. You come here as a seasonal worker, you have health coverage.
Right.
Like, it's incredible. Yeah. So that's why he could come to see me, because patch testing costs money. Anyway, he was picking, I don't know what else he was picking, but he was picking asparagus. And I did a literature search, and I tested him to asparagus oil, and he was severely allergic, contact, not eating, to asparagus. So when he stopped picking that one plant, he was fine. So he could continue to work. He had money, wanted to send money home to his family. I mean, his hands were like chopped beef, right?
Oh,
so very satisfying.
Yeah. So you just mentioned healthcare workers. So why don't we talk about that?
So, I mean, we started to see it in SARS, which, God, so long ago, right? It was 2002. But during COVID, hand dermatitis in healthcare workers exploded.
Sure.
And we know why.
Everyone was washing and sanitizing. And
a huge increase. Most of the cases as in healthcare workers, they're irritant from hand washing and sanitizing. But I had one interesting case. She just wasn't getting any better. And this was when, I don't know if you remember, but people were running out of hand sanitizer.
Sure.
So companies were like scrambling to make it, and everyone was sort of jumping in the bandwagon. They're going to make their own hand sanitizer. And of course, what do small companies do? Because they think it's going to differentiate them. They put in extra crap.
Okay.
So fragrances, lavender. This one was farsenol, which was, I did a literature search and I noticed that in the occupational setting, this was an allergen. So we tested her to it specifically because that was the hand sanitizer that was available at our hospital, and she was allergic to it. But that's the rarity. Most cases of healthcare workers is just irritation from sheer number. And they're the most challenging because we have to actually alter how they work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. God, it's things you really don't think about.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. I wanted to quickly talk about this is an important case to me, the ICU pediatrician.
Okay, yeah.
And then we're done with healthcare workers.
Okay.
So this one actually was published, and it was very, it kind of changed the landscape a little bit in contact dermatitis. This was during SARS, had an ICU pediatrician. She has had severe facial dermatitis and upper body dermatitis. And when you're in the ICU, you have to gown, right? You have to wear like a disposable gown. You have to wear a mask. And actually during SARS, we had more mask wearing because it was was more potentially deadly. So again, to summarize really quickly, I tested her and she came up to formaldehyde. So formaldehyde, we got to remember during SARS, masks and mask use really started to increase, but it was still new. Like we didn't really understand what in masks was causing the problem. So she was allergic to the formaldehyde in the mask because masks and disposable textiles are not made from natural fibers. Yeah. They're actually glued. It doesn't matter. The components it's an artificial textile and there's formaldehyde used. So, and in effect, she couldn't work in the ICU anymore because she couldn't wear the mask. We couldn't find any masks that didn't have formaldehyde off-gassing.
Wow.
So, and I had to go to bat for her with her insurance company, and we published her, we presented her, And I actually got pushback from some textile people on the published article telling me I didn't know what I was talking about. And we had an editorial. It was a back and forth, and I was, anyway, I was right.
Final word.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about florists.
Yeah. So
it's something I didn't even think about too. Gosh.
Yeah.
So many different. Yeah.
So the weird and wonderful one, I mean, we'll talk about the common stuff, but the weird and wonderful ones, and sometimes I get some incredible pictures. So a young mom working kind of seasonal in the summer in one of those large warehouse kind of things. And she came in, I said, well, what plants are you using? Because, you can become allergic to plants, just like poison ivy is a plant, right?
Right.
And I said, and she said, well, whenever I handle English ivy, like sometimes we get these huge deliveries of English ivy, my hands get worse. Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't think that's allergenic, but let's look at the literature. This was before ChatGPT.
Right.
So you actually have to go into the, so sure enough, English ivy is potential allergen. But I test, so with florists sometimes and people that work with plants and we actually test them to the actual plant.
Okay.
So I took a little leaf of the ivy. We put it on her back. Remember we talked about patch testing in the first episode. We leave it on for 48 hours and she had this perfect red outline of the
leaf.
Yeah, and I took a picture of it and it was published.
Okay.
Because it's a great picture.
In some magazine you probably have never heard of.
It's a journal. It's called a scientific journal. It's not a magazine.
Call it a magazine.
It's actually the Contact Dermatitis Journal of the North American Contact Dermatitis Society. So.
Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah.
I love it.
The most common allergen, though, in florists is the Peruvian lily. You know those, I don't really like those flowers. They're like long and thin, and they're used in all kinds of crappy floral arrangements.
I'm not so up on my flowers. Yeah. But okay,
so
I trust
Peruvian lily is, and florists actually know this. But the most interesting florist case I had was a very well-known florist in Yorkville. It's a gentleman. And he was, again, beside himself, chronic hand dermatitis, couldn't work. And we tested him originally to all the plant series and he was negative. And I said, okay, when you're negative to the regular plant series, we have to actually test you to your plants. Like, what do you use? What do you handle the most? Mm-hmm. And he said, well, I love hydrangeas. I do a lot of hydrangea arrangements. And I kind of have an inkling that, or actually maybe he didn't have an inkling. I can't remember. Anyway, we tested him. He was allergic to the stems. So when you test, chemistry, so flower, stem, and the leaf are all chemically different.
Okay.
So we test patients to all bits of the flowers. He brought in like 10. It's a big ordeal. And he was allergic to the stem of the hydrangea. I published that case too. But then he could, as soon as he avoided that, his hands cleared up.
Wow.
So that's definitely detective work.
God.
Yeah.
Okay. So wait, should we talk about the veterinary pharmacist?
Yeah. So that's just a fun case. I mean,
they're all pretty fun.
They're all fun.
Well, serious.
It is serious because you change people's lives. But this was really cool. And something, one of the things I wanted to mention is one of the reasons I love doing this is I'm always learning.
Sure.
Because people come in and say, I think it's this. And I go, oh, I've never really heard of that before, but let's check the literature. So this was a woman who was making, we've got lovely Odin, my dog here. So the antibiotics that they use in pets are very different than what we use in humans. So there's a very common antibiotic called tylosin.
Okay.
And veterinarian pharmacists, they have to like mix them from powder and put them in the capsule because they're not mass produced like they are for humans. So she was allergic to the dust. It was going onto her face. Her face looked like a tomato. And but what's really cool is she had if you sit and do something, you get a crease in your neck. So she had no rash where the crease was.
Wow.
That's why the photograph was so good. She also made the cover of the Contact Dermatitis Journal or the North American Contact Dermatitis Society. Anyway, and again, I had to go to bat for her because they didn't believe it. Girl. So yeah, I had to get the stuff, test her to it, show that she was positive to the antibiotic. So really cool case.
That's so cool. Yeah.
But now we're going to talk about my most famous case.
Okay. Take it away.
The criminal case.
Oh, the criminal case. Yeah.
And actually, when I was away writing the revision of my...
This is really quite sad,
I was thinking,
actually.
I could really do like a fictional book with some sort of case of something bad happening and figuring it out with dermatology contact dermatitis patch testing. Might be a good fictional book.
Yeah.
All right. Try to summarize this. Patient came to see me from a couple hours outside of Toronto. She'd already seen my colleague. She was patch tested. She came up to that crazy preservative, methyl isothiazolone. She had huge blisters on her feet, bottoms of her feet. And my colleague said, she doesn't make any sense to me. Can you see her and for a second opinion? So I saw her. I go, well, methyl isothiazolone isn't in shoes. And we had sort of, what's nice about my group is that we have a small group around the world and we're all on a chat and we'll say, has anybody heard of this before? And everybody was like, no. So that was my first clue. Something was really off. So we tested her again. She came out to the same thing. And I said, you don't make any sense. So she came back a couple months later. She had a rash on the sides of her nose, under her eyes, and on the backs of the upper thighs where you would sit in a chair.
Okay.
And I said to her, you don't make any sense.
Wow.
You keep coming up to the same thing. She worked in a paint factory.
Okay.
She was a manager. She had an issue with a worker. And it was, to make a long story short again, she kind of said, you keep telling me something isn't adding up. So I went and checked the cameras. And this worker was coming in because methyl isothiazolone is used in paints.
Okay.
So he was spraying it in her work boots, on her seat, and on her work table. So the safety glasses when she put them on.
Oh, wow.
And he was arrested for assault.
Sure.
And I was interviewed. The police came to my clinic at St. Mike's. So
that's
criminal case. And
so crazy.
You heard of the term Munchausen by proxy?
Sure.
So that's when parents do something to their kids. So we presented it at a meeting, allergic contact dermatitis by proxy.
Wow.
And my resident won first prize. So I'm kind of bragging in this episode.
Just a little.
Just a little.
Okay. But it is.
You can tell I'm passionate about it.
Well, passionate and also, good at it. But I like that, you're working in a team and we're lucky to have that, if you have some of these issues, you can actually go and have a group of people who can try and tackle your problems.
It's not a sexy part of dermatology. I try to get residents interested in it because it's so fascinating. It's so interesting. It's not as remunerative. So, and it's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
But, for any dermatologist listening to this, it's very satisfying. So
yeah,
we're trying to lure a few more in because I'm not going to do this forever.
Are you sure? Okay, do we want to talk about like hairdressers? And I mean, there's so many people we can talk about.
Well, let's talk about gloves. I think you have a...
So my family doctor is allergic to latex.
Yeah. So here's an interesting point. So I can tell when I get a referral, the knowledge of the physician referring, because latex doesn't cause dermatitis.
Okay.
Causes hives.
Okay.
Causes anaphylaxis and death.
Wow.
But it doesn't give you a rash.
Oh.
I mean, hives are but they're different. So if somebody's coming in with a flaky, scaly, a dermatitis type rash on their hands, they're not allergic to latex. They're allergic to other things in the gloves called rubber accelerators. It doesn't really matter. The point is, that is a common misconception. And it's something that needs to be sorted out properly with proper patch testing.
Okay. So
Marla is allergic to latex. She can't wear latex gloves, but she can wear every other type of glove. People that are allergic to the rubber accelerators, they have problems with all gloves.
Oh, wow.
So we have to actually find out from the manufacturer whether what they're allergic to is in the glove. It's much more complicated.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in a way, at least she knows that it's latex, so she can use other gloves that don't have latex.
Yeah, latex kind of has fallen out of favor anyway because, and that's an interesting story unto itself. I mean, people became allergic to latex so crazily because the need for it skyrocketed during HIV. So it's kind of like the other case I was telling you about sanitizer. So if the need skyrockets and there's not product there, they were made very poorly with high protein, like the latex protein in the gloves, and it's caused an epidemic of latex allergy.
Wow.
So we don't see it as much anymore because they're not used as much, and they're made better because they weren't during the HIV crisis.
And they're made with that latex? They can
Most
be
of them
made.
now are made out of nitrile. Yeah,
Okay.
nitrile gloves. But if you have a dermatitis, you can still react to the nitrile gloves because it's different things in the gloves. It's not the latex. Yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah.
But it's important that patients know. And it's just an interesting case. But you were talking about hairdressers. I mean, they were kind of wrapping it up here, but hairdressers, nail technicians, they can become allergic to, so hairdressers can become allergic to the dyes that they use, the perms that they use. I don't think many people perm anymore, but
do people? Well, no,
yeah,
maybe not.
perms can be quite allergenic.
Sure.
They can be allergic to their scissors, the nickel in the scissors.
Oh, really?
They get irritant contact from hair washing.
Sure.
Big problem. They can become allergic to the gloves. And the nail technicians, we talked a little about that.
Yeah.
They become allergic to the acrylate. And it can be, this goes back to
So like the
occupational
shellac
again.
and the actual product, chemicals in the products.
But it ruins their career.
Sure.
Once allergic to acrylate, because all the nail acrylates cross-react pretty much, you can't do it. You can't use it.
Right.
Hair dye, there's some other alternatives, but yeah. Anyway.
Okay, I absolutely love this. This series is really, really interesting. I think we have to keep it going.
I hope that, I know it's not as sexy and fun as like, skin tightening or fillers but I hope people listen to it, and it's very dear to me and I'm very passionate about it. So I
think it affects a lot of people.
It does. Well, I just said occupational dermatitis is the #1 cause of occupational skin disease in the world.
Yeah.
So thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Sandy.
You're welcome to Skin to It. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions for us, DM us on social. And don't forget to subscribe and review because it helps us bring us the content that you love.
Absolutely.
Next
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Catch us every Thursday for a fresh exclusive dose of Skin to It. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on the skincare wisdom. We will guide you through the maze of skincare and cut through that noise to help you achieve your healthiest skin. Loving our podcast? Share your thoughts and help us grow by leaving a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Until we meet again, see you soon on Skin to It, your guide to healthy skin.